Think about your core leadership philosophy for a second. Let me ask you, do you hire for proven talent or do you hire for potential? It's a fascinating question, and honestly, your answer dictates the entire trajectory of your organization. Take a look at how NASA used to identify astronauts back in the day. They didn't just screen for people with flawless, completely unblemished track records. Instead, they actively sought out candidates who had faced massive, very public failures, maybe a test flight that went horribly wrong or a major engineering setback. Why? Well, because the way a person responds to failure, how they dissect what went wrong and build themselves back up, tells you literally everything you need to know about their potential to grow when they're put under extreme pressure.
That NASA hiring strategy, it's basically the perfect real-world application of psychologist Carol Dweck's groundbreaking mindset theory. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking this really powerful concept, but we aren't just looking at it as a personal development hack. We are focusing specifically on what this means for you as corporate managers. How do these psychological principles translate into the messy, real world of business? And how can they help you build high-performing, resilient teams that can actually handle the crazy complexities of today's market?
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the two core mindsets, look at their corporate impact, debunk the trap of the false growth mindset, dive into some real strategies for managers, and wrap up with the future of work.
All right, Section 1, the two mindsets. To truly understand how organizations tick, we first have to look at how people view their own abilities. So let's start with the fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, people believe their qualities, their intelligence, their talents, their creativity, are carved in stone. You either have it or you just don't. And hey, let's be totally fair here. Having a fixed mindset isn't inherently malicious. It's just human nature to want to protect our ego. But if you believe your traits are just a hand you were dealt at birth, you're constantly going to feel the need to prove yourself and hide your weaknesses at all costs. In the workplace, this means avoiding challenges. Because if you have to try really hard, it's seen as a sign of inadequacy. The logic is, if you were truly a genius, you wouldn't have to sweat for it, right?
On the flip side, the growth mindset operates in a completely different universe. This is the profound belief that your basic qualities can be cultivated over time through dedication, effort, and continuous learning. In this mindset, the hand you're dealt, that is just the starting line. It's the foundation, not the ceiling. People operating with this mindset actually thrive on challenges. They look at struggles, roadblocks, and huge corporate hurdles not as threats to their intelligence, but as essential stepping stones for mastery. They get that stretching yourself is the only real way to expand your capabilities.
The most striking difference between these two views is how they handle failing. Think about your own team for a second. When someone makes a mistake, do they try to bury it or do they dissect it? In a fixed mindset, failing at a task literally means I am a failure. Failure becomes an identity. That's a devastating blow to the ego. But in a growth mindset, sure, failure still hurts, but it doesn't define you. It's just data. It is simply information telling you that your effort or your current strategy needs a tweak. It's an invitation to iterate, not a final verdict on your worth.
Moving on to Section 2, the corporate impact.
So, what happens when these personal beliefs are multiplied across an entire executive board? Inside pretty much every organization, there's a brutal, often invisible tug of war between fixed and growth tendencies. Mindsets don't just stay neatly packaged inside a single employee's head. They bleed out into everything. They shape leadership styles, they dictate exactly how performance feedback goes down, and ultimately they form the absolute bedrock of your corporate culture. When these opposing views clash, it literally dictates whether a bold new idea lives or dies.
When fixed mindset leaders are running the show, the results can be incredibly toxic. Because they take criticism as a personal attack on their inherent abilities, they tend to surround themselves with yes people. They end up creating these fear-based cultures where experimentation is a massive risk, innovation dries up, and mistakes are fiercely punished or completely swept under the rug. In that kind of environment, everyone is so obsessed with looking smart that nobody is actually doing the hard work of getting smarter.
Business history paints a crystal clear picture of this. Think about the fixed-minded executives at Enron, famously called the smartest guys in the room. They prioritize their personal reputation above literally everything else, treating the company like their own personal fiefdom to show dominance. They couldn't admit to a single flaw, and that rigidity led to one of the most spectacular corporate collapses ever. Growth-minded leaders are completely different. Take Lou Gerstner when he took over IBM in the 1990s. IBM was deeply stuck in a fixed mindset full of internal turf wars. Gerstner didn't just demand better numbers, he systematically broke down those silos, tying executive bonuses directly to cross-departmental collaboration. He treated the organization like a shared growth engine.
Which leads us to Section 3, the false growth mindset. This is a very dangerous corporate trap.
You see, adopting the vocabulary of growth without doing the actual, uncomfortable work behind it is super toxic. You've probably seen this happen. A manager enthusiastically praises someone's effort even when a project completely tanks just to seem supportive. But effort that doesn't lead to learning? That's not growth, that's just spinning your wheels. Or maybe managers dodge giving honest, critical feedback because they want to appear nurturing. Declaring you have a growth culture while secretly punishing mistakes behind closed doors creates a huge disconnect. Honestly, this kind of lip service just breeds deep employee cynicism.
So, Section 4, Strategies for Managers. Let's look at your actionable playbook.
If you want to genuinely cultivate this within your team, intentional action is required. First, shift how you communicate. Praise the strategy, the resilience, and the process, not just the final outcome or natural talent. Step 2, and this is crucial, model vulnerability yourself. If you want your team to learn from mistakes, you have to be willing to stand up in a meeting, admit your own missteps, and explain what you learned from them. You also need to actively help your team navigate their own fixed mindset triggers, like that completely natural instinct to feel threatened when a new, highly capable peer joins the team.
But here is the catch. To do any of this, you absolutely must provide what researcher Amy Edmondson calls psychological safety. This is the shared belief on your team that they can take risks, pitch wild, half-baked ideas, and own up to mistakes without fear of retaliation or humiliation. Without psychological safety, none of those other strategies matter. It is the absolute bedrock of a growth culture, and as a leader, it's your job to fiercely protect that environment every single day.
You also have to put your money where your mouth is and engineer real-world development. You can't just talk about growth, you have to build pathways for it. Try intentionally assigning stretch projects, cross-functional tasks, or lateral moves. For instance, instead of just promoting your top salesperson into a senior role where they're already totally comfortable, move them laterally to lead a struggling new product launch. Push them out of their comfort zone. Prove to them through tangible action that you believe their true potential is still largely untapped.
Finally, Section 5, the future of work. Why is making this transition so critical right now? The short answer, massive bottom-line returns. Organizations that foster a genuine growth mindset develop incredible learning agility. That is the existential ability to pivot quickly during market shocks or disruptive AI shifts. These companies also see way higher employee retention because their staff are engaged and actually taking ownership of their own careers. Ultimately, you're building deep structural resilience, the kind of team that naturally pushes through difficulty to drive continuous innovation.
Now, to be totally fair, we have to acknowledge the valid criticisms from our source material too. Mindset is powerful, absolutely, but it is not a magic wand. An individual's positive attitude cannot magically fix a systemic lack of resources or a fundamentally toxic workplace. Context matters a lot. Plus, a rigid obsession with pure corporate outcomes and relentless productivity can sometimes twist the growth mindset into a tool that actually undermines genuine human development. Mindset works best when it's paired with a genuinely supportive, well-resourced environment.
So it all comes back to you, the manager. As you look at the team you're leading right now, the feedback you're giving tomorrow, and the culture you're building for the long haul, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Are you building a fiefdom of proven talent, or are you building a growth engine for the future?